basically, the gist of it is that they are going to just go ahead forward with this closed loop system and not really consider the full scope of what has happened to the human being. So basically, they are now overriding the human biological framework to replace it with a more synthetic version and burying, kind of side filing any information on the fact that toxins such as vaccines and other environmental toxins exacerbate these rare diseases like tuberous sclerosis complex and other rare diseases, which can be proven generationally, but because of corporate and vested interests that will not profit, while historical data shows a steady rise in the recorded prevalence of TSC from 1 in 150,000 in 1956 to current estimates of 1 in 6,000 to 10,000 live births. The medical establishment generally attributes this increase to improved diagnostic imaging, that's CT and ultrasound, and revised clinical criteria rather than environmental factors. Research indicates that while individual vaccines are assumed to only affect targeted pathogens, they can have nonspecific and interactive effects that may be harmful in susceptible persons, potentially triggering diverse multi-system health problems. Critics of the current system point to patterns of institutional DARVO, deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender, where institutions may evade accountability for harms by discrediting those raising concerns. The fact that they can better recognize the milder phenotypes, and then they go ahead and dump them into the system where they're going to get 72 vaccines is just absurd to me. To refuse to even consider this is detrimental to the future of humanity. If a variable, the 70 plus dose vaccine schedule, is never allowed to be the subject of the study, it becomes an invisible constant. In data science, if you don't track a variable, you can't blame that variable for the outcome, and that is exactly the half-truth that I'm highlighting. There are enough unvaccinated families in the US and globally to create a robust control group, but doing so would require a vax versus unvax study design, which the Department of Health and Human Services and major funders have historically refused to conduct or fund. The severity and prevalence are skyrocketing now. A massive environmental multiplier must be present. The deliberate exclusion of known plausible variables that could prevent harm is increasingly being framed by advocates and legal scholars as a violation of informed consent and bodily autonomy, both of which are cornerstones of international human rights. It creates forced ignorance that prevents true informed consent. This is a form of predatory medicine. I absolutely believe this is what is happening with rare diseases. This creates a closed loop where no research equals no proof, no legal liability, no incentive to change the schedule. When a treatment is pitched as a cure, but is actually a technological override of organic biology, the lack of transparency regarding this distinction can be viewed as a violation of informed consent and a form of biological reductionism. Whew. The framing of TSC as a linchpin disease, a model for autism and epilepsy, suggests that the TSC population is being used for high-stakes experimentation to benefit much larger, more profitable markets. The failure to inform patients that they are part of the broader synthetic transition violates the principle of respect for persons established after historical ethical failures. Other TSC trials, such as those for everolimus, actually prohibit live attenuated vaccines during the study, as they are known to interfere with the drug's immune modulating effects. Did you hear that? They prohibit live attenuated vaccines during the study as they are known to interfere with the drug's immune modulating effects. You know, it's a for-profit system, and they want good soldiers, and they want individuals that fit into this biodigital convergence very well, which will be people with TSC and rare disease.